600 horsepower, less than 4% interest, less than $600 per month, with a 1 million kilometer or 621,000 mile warranty and 0 down payment. If a salesman at a dealership told you these numbers, what would be your first thought? That is literally a deal you cannot refuse. It would be foolish to do so. Just take a second and read over all of that again. But there is a catch. The car is Chinese. Not this type of Chinese though. This type. Not so bad, huh? Let's just look past its drawing reference and actually see that it's a very good car. And for the same price as a Kia Sportage, a Mazda CX-5, or a Subaru Outback, yeah, you're kind of getting a lot of car for the price. But these absurd numbers aren't unique to the G-Tour T2. It's a trend focused across a lot of Chinese cars that perhaps may not catch your fancy if you just look at them from a distance. These are the numbers you'll find the G-Tour T2s going for where I live, with the 900 horsepower variant being around $700 a month. Yeah, don't ask, I don't want to talk about the 900 horsepower, but it's just useless. These cars either fascinate you or repulse you, or both, I don't know, but even if you're never gonna buy them, their very existence benefits you in ways you might not comprehend at the surface level. But like I said, we'll get to that later. First, let's take a look at Chinese cars in China. We use the same example of the G-Tour, which I should probably clarify is a sub-brand of Chery, for my audience from the land of burgers and absurd stock surges. I am still pissed I didn't buy SanDisk a year ago. I saw that shit at $33 and forgot to buy it. I literally came across 3 posts telling me to. Anyway, T2 in China cost $24,000 to $29,000. 600 horsepower, by the way. And of course, the same price as a Nissan Sentra or Honda Civic. Jesus. You might scoff at that, and well, I guess you can, but they aren't cheap because they're about to fall apart at any second. Remember, these car companies are a business. Making profit is their whole shtick, you know? What I'm trying to say is that they would never offer a 1 million kilometer warranty if they knew their cars were junk. It shows confidence, and the fact is that they know what they're doing. The reason they're cheaper is because of a few things, but specifically low production costs, economies of scale, and a little help from Chairman Xi himself. China has an enormous manufacturing capacity, which allows them to produce vast quantities of parts and vehicles, significantly reducing their cost per unit. This equals cheaper car. Now let's make it cheaper by factoring in the battery supply chain, which is key, and coincidentally, China controls a massive part of it. Oh, and then let's give a few subsidies and government support. Voila, now you have a car that outperforms others in its segment and is cheaper and has more tech. Basically everything a person in the market for a new car that wouldn't break the bank is looking for, so obviously they're gonna do well. But if you take this narrow-minded approach to Chinese cars, you're basically deciding to stop in the middle of a street and watch all the other people walk past you. This is not the main reason. The main reason is their mindset. Unlike legacy manufacturers obsessing over profits, the Chinese obsessed over the value for money proposition. If they don't, they never make inroads into the market. Tell me, you really think some rando is gonna look at Ford and see a Chinese brand next to it, same price, same everything, and say, yeah, let me go for the Chinese one? No, he literally won't. But these are just intricate absurdities. I want to talk about something a bit more interesting in the sense of performance. And that's the obsession with PHEVs. Oh my god, that is genuinely fascinating. Time to get smacked in the head with a book of facts. In 2025, it is said China sold over 5 million PHEVs, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. These and regular EVs make up about 60% of all Chinese cars sold. If you compare these to Toyota, Volkswagen, and BMW, they sold 1.3 million. But please keep in mind, these are not exact figures and are super rough, but that 1.3 million is combined. Like, whoa. Furthermore, some Chinese sources say it takes about 20 months for the bigger brands like Geely, Chery, BYD to make a new car, whereas it would take legacy manufacturers over 45 years to do so. But why PHEVs? What's the deal here? Because I believe they are interesting, firstly, and also because I believe it has something to do with marketing. Take a wild guess what PHEVs do. They increase both power and range, and guess what are the first stats a car brand that wants to sell you their car is gonna give you? Power, price, range. So they decided to hit all three. For this example, I'll use the Denza Z9 GT. Denza was a brand made by Mercedes and BYD, but Mercedes pulled out and now it's just BYD. The Z9 GT's base model goes on sale for about $40,000 in China and has an engine that acts as a generator for the batteries and electric motors, which pushes horsepower to over 800 and range to over 1,000. Well played, I guess. Now, it's never going to be on sale for $40,000 in other parts of the world. That will literally collapse the car market, and there's shipping costs, duties, taxes, etc, etc, etc. Each country has its own set of regulations. Now, let's look at their design, because that is another absurd characteristic of Chinese cars. Their designs. This Denza straight up gives me Panamera Sport Turismo vibes, which is even more apparent with a Xiaomi SU7, which also seems like a mix of a Hyundai Sonata, a Porsche Panamera, and a McLaren 720S. Like, the U7 is just a Purosangue, and then you've got the T2, which, yeah. But one particular car caught my eye lately, and that is this, the Audi A7. No, Uncle Torque has not forgotten to take his meds. That thing is Chinese because it's not an Audi, let alone an A7. It's a Chery Arizo S. I guess I'll have to torque-explain this as well. 10 minutes of me torque-explaining. The reason why so many Chinese cars look similar is because they don't have to worry about any lawsuits in China. They'll just be dismissed, like who cares? Unless you're Landwind, because they somehow ripped off Land Rover so bad that even Chinese courts sided against them. You know how outrageous your car has to be? I mean, God. And also, this Arizo will probably never make it out of China, so capturing the hearts of Chinese car buyers is easy if your car looks like an Audi. Flawless thinking. Remember when I said all of this is beneficial for you? I wasn't joking. You know, when cars like these come along in the market, they do a little disruption, let's say. Picture you walking into a dealership. This is the dealership of a brand you've been familiar with your whole life. Your Grams owned a car from here, your father owns a car from here, and now it's your turn. You see the options available to you, and they all seem great. Loads of safety tech, modern screens, fuel efficiency, and well, great offers on the price. But then, right across the street, you notice a newer dealership selling weird-looking cars you've never heard of. You brush it off, naturally. I mean, what type of upstart is this? There's no way they're gonna make good cars, right? But checking out their offers, you realize you've got the same tech, same features, same modern feel for a lot less, and the warranties offered are insane. Tell me, how could you give that up? Even if you knew it was Chinese, you just won't if you're a guy looking to get a car that goes from A to B. This would then disrupt the market, as this individual wouldn't be the only one facing this dilemma. The market has real competition now, and competition is crucial because it keeps people innovating, doing their best to stay ahead of the curve instead of falling for corporate greed. This is exactly why, even though I would not buy a Chinese car myself, I still advocate to let Chinese cars in the market. They will force legacy manufacturers to do better and make better vehicles for the people. The downside is that we'll have to deal with modern trends of electric vehicles and PHEVs that use engines as generators and whatnot. But I do believe that would have happened regardless of Chinese cars, so yeah, it is what it is, I guess. The hope is that you as a consumer would benefit, but time will tell. Now, I gotta ask you for a favor again. If you can, tag Team YouTube on X because they still haven't done anything about my channel demonetization. So many comments and so little action. Pretty infuriating, but I am not gonna give up. Do I look like the type to give up? See y'all soon.